seen this color in person yet.
When do you see in the sunlight?
Got the Porsche, the GTR, the M.
Getting out is definitely
Out on the Porsche.
it's dirty.
Fuck you. Oh, this suits you, man. I could see you in one of these. Oh, he hates it all, but What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new, welcome. My name is Munes. Today we'll be going over the G80 M3. This is a 2023 50 Jahre edition G80 M3 BMW. For those of you that don't know, the 50 Jahre edition means 50th year anniversary. They made 500 of these as a limited edition. They pretty much came out with 5 colors. I'm not going to go over that too much. I have another video about that. I'll link that right here. But this is a Techno Violet, which is one of the 5 colors. They brought it back from one of the older generations, but either way, it's still a G80 M3. So I've owned this car for just over a year. I probably put just over 11,000 miles on it so far. I do not really daily drive it, but I've taken it to many places. I've driven it for hours at a time. I've driven it, you know, to many states across the East Coast, and I do have a lot of friends that do daily drive these, so I'm going to try to give you guys the best perspective for both scenarios for anybody curious. So it'll be a full honest review. Before this, I did come from an F90 M5. I'll link that video also right here. As far as perspective, I came from an F90 M5, so I guess it's not really biased, right? I'm going to break this up into probably like 4 or 5 categories. I'm going to start with the looks of the vehicle. I'll start with, and then after that, I'll switch into power and performance. From there, I'll go into comfort, and then from there, we'll talk about technology, and maybe I'll throw in something else in towards the end. All right, so let's start with the most obvious, the looks of the vehicle. I think personally, so obviously when the car came out, the nose was a big issue. Most people hated it. I personally didn't like it at first either. I was like, this really doesn't look that good. Obviously I have an aftermarket grille and ducts and everything, you know. Shout out Unit 17 for you know, hooking me up with the carbon. But I'll link up a picture of what the original grille looked like. But you know, obviously most of us did not like what that looked like, so it grew on me. I think for most people it grew on them. I think once it started hitting the streets and, you know, people started modifying them, obviously I think it grew on people. That's the front end. I think besides the nose, which, you know, even if you still dislike it, I think the headlights are obviously phenomenal. So I have the laser headlights. You know, obviously they're adaptive, so they kind of move with the steering wheel, and I do have a tinted windshield, and even through that, like, these headlights, I have absolutely no issues at night. They're honestly one of the best headlights I've ever had on a vehicle. The blue also accents the purple very nice, and accents many other colors. A lot of my other G80 M3 friends have the laser headlights, and I think the blue just looks phenomenal. It really adds to the spec of the vehicle. Some people don't. Some people prefer the non-laser headlights. Obviously to each their own, but I think that's a very, very nice spec on these. But besides that, that's the front end, the nose, the headlights. I really think the body overall looks very nice. It's obviously not a full-size sedan like the F90 M5. It's a much smaller vehicle, but I do think it looks good overall. So obviously the 50R edition came with these specs, but obviously you can spec it out, or you can add aftermarket parts. I do have the carbon front lip that came factory. The side skirts are just painted black per the 50R spec. I do have the carbon spoiler. The diffuser is all black, and then the carbon roof is also default on the spec, which, you know, any G80 M3 you can kind of spec it out that way. I do have an aftermarket exhaust. links in other videos. And these are the 50 Jahre edition M wheels, so they come in Orbit Gray, they call it. It's really the same wheels that come on the other G80 M3s. It's just they're painted Orbit Gray to kind of distinguish that this is a 50 Jahre edition. Really nothing special. They are 19s in the front, 20s in the rear, which is cool. They did a staggered setup. Overall, I think the exterior does look amazing. It did grow on me, and I'll show you guys the interior real quick as far as looks and whatnot. So obviously you got your standard buttons. You got the carbon speaker system. You know, the usual, the presets, the carbon buckets. So mine is spec'd with the carbon bucket seats. You can get the carbon bucket seats as an additional option, or you can get the standard leather seats. Obviously personal preference, but I think the carbon buckets do look amazing, and that's a personal preference. Some people don't like them, some people love them, but overall, besides that, I think the rear is pretty simple. You do have like the USB-C charging ports, heated seats, and everything back here. Not that I really ever have anybody in the rear, but it's pretty simple. You know, it's still a 3 Series at the end of the day. You got the LED lighting. Can't really see it here, but you can kind of see it on the other side. Obviously that all changes ambient lighting. And then here's a shot of the cockpit pretty much. If you get the package, you do get, you know, it's standard on my vehicle, the 50 Jahre edition, but you can get like the carbon on the steering wheel, the carbon paddles, which are pretty sweet. The back is red. You get the carbon in the middle, and then you get the carbon up here. Obviously 50 Jahre edition, you get the special badge to tell you it's a 1 of 500, which I guess is pretty cool. You got the stitching and the stitching everywhere, but 2023, you do have the iPad look. Personally, it grew on me. I'll get into that once I sit back in the vehicle, but it didn't look good at first to me, but it really grew on me because I think the cluster and the instrument display do look amazing, and the iDrive 8 does look a lot better. But overall, here's the vehicle just parked off. You get the special plaque as a 50 Jahre edition. And I guess I'll show you guys the trunk space real quick. I don't even think it's gonna, oh, it did open, okay. It's like some microfiber towels, but you get a little compartment here, you get a little bit of space here. Everything's factory here, I didn't add anything, so it's decent room. You can fold the seats down if you need. This comes up. I do not have a spare tire, it's just the battery down here. Nothing special, pretty standard. This is for my valve controller for the exhaust. And then, you know, part of the package, I think it's the driver assistance package, you get the power trunk lid. I'm not going to go over the packages. It does turn a lot of head. You know, so many times in traffic, people roll down the windows, thumbs up. They ask me what kind of car it is, you know, what kind of color it is. Obviously, you know, the color does stand out a little bit, but even if I didn't have this color, people still do. It does turn heads, and I think it's a pretty sick vehicle, and obviously most people now think that, you know, all that hate, and now people love it. As far as power, it is a turbo 6-cylinder inline motor. It's about 503 horsepower from the factory with about 479 pounds-feet of torque, give or take. Obviously that's pre-tuned, that's just factory numbers. So it is the S58 motor. Obviously I have the aftermarket carbon fiber from unit 17, and I got the titanium pipes, the bars, and then the titanium front end intakes. That's all not factory, that's the stuff I added, aftermarket parts, but pretty simple. Besides that, I didn't really change anything under the hood. This is all factory. I haven't even tuned the vehicle yet, because even with 500 horsepower and how light the vehicle is, I think it's a very, very fast vehicle. It's a rocket. There's like no lag. I went over, you know, even when I compared it with the M5 in the previous video, if you check that out, I think it's just a, you know, pre-tuned, this thing's a rocket, and anybody who tunes it says it's just even way faster. These things can take on all sorts of cars. They're super fast, and you know, while we're talking about power and performance, I'll talk about reliability. I mean, even friends who have tuned these 20,000 miles, 30,000 miles, 40,000 miles on their cars, tuned, no issues. Obviously that's, you know, mild tune, decent tune. Anybody who goes, there are people who go overboard. I think some shop the other day got theirs to 1,300 horsepower wheel to the wheels. Obviously they blew the car went up in flames and so forth, but they had the boost going way too high. But on like a normal tune, mild tune, 93, even some people do 85 and even more than that, these cars are still pretty reliable. So as far as maintenance, me personally, a year later, really I've only done oil changes, nothing crazy. Mine's obviously completely, well, I've catalyst downpipes, but it's not tuned yet, so I guess it's kind of stock. But all that said and done, I mean, I've only done oil changes, a couple of oil changes, nothing crazy. And even friends who have these cars for a year, 2 years, 3 years, they've really only done oil changes, coolant, you know, nothing crazy. They haven't had to swap anything, nothing with the motor, nothing with the transmission. Everything's been bulletproof, solid. So hands down, very reliable, very powerful. Highly recommend it. I mean, for people who daily drive these, it's a very fast car to be daily driving. Y'all get into comfort in a minute, but as far as power and performance, to have that power readily available whenever you need it is just pretty sweet. And it's reliable. I mean, you know, you can't beat it. All right, let me talk about the comfort real quick before I dive into the technology. So obviously my car is lowered on coilover, so it's not as comfortable as a stock vehicle, but I did own it on stock springs for a little bit, and then I went to lowering springs, and then I went to coilover. So I think I could honestly give you feedback on all three personally. I mean, even though coilovers, I've only had them for a month, so you know, stay tuned for further feedback on that. Anybody curious on the coilovers? But in all honesty, I came from an F90 M5, so obviously the F90 M5 is way more comfortable. You know, I went over it in the previous video, but I'm not going to talk too much about it. But it's a full-size sedan. The seats are so much cushier. They're very comfortable. It's much roomier, but I personally don't really get passengers in the rear. I'm not, you know, this is not a daily driver for me, so I don't really care to have passengers back here. I also, you know, I'm a little, I don't want to say paranoid, but like I like keeping the carbon buckets crisp. I like the car just staying clean, so I see no need for me to have passengers. But you know, some people do have passengers. I know people that have baby seats in the back and they take their kids out in these. You know, it's still, you know, I sit really far back, so maybe look, compare it to my passenger seat. You still have a little bit of room. Headspace is still good. The ceiling does prop up a little bit for the carbon roof because I do not have the sunroof. But I think it's not super roomy. It's not like M5 roomy, but it's still decent, you know, for the size of the vehicle it is. And obviously convenience wise, it has the ports and the heated seats, but comfort wise, that's the rear. I'll show you guys the front. Obviously the front's pretty roomy. I'm 6'1" and I sit very comfortably here. I could move a lot further back. And you got the armrest, which you don't have in like the M3 CS, so it's cool that we still have that. You got, you know, the steering wheel is phenomenal, you know, with the paddles and the buttons, and just shift knob is cool. Obviously this is an automatic, so you know, manual would be a little bit different, but overall it's pretty much the same. Very comfortable on the inside in my opinions. You know, obviously carbon buckets, give or take, you know, personal preference. I personally love them. I did, you know, my previous video, I did a full year review on the carbon buckets. That's for, you can go check that out if you're interested, but you know, I don't want to base this off carbon buckets. I personally love them, but the interior is nice. And then as far as, you know, like I said, on suspension, when it was on stock springs, I think it was pretty comfortable. I didn't really feel a lot of the bumps and cracks on the road, but you know, obviously compared to the M5, I felt a lot more in this vehicle because it's a smaller vehicle. It's meant to be sportier, at least in my opinion. It's a bit of a sportier vehicle, and even with the stock suspension, I did feel a little bit more bumps, you know, speed bumps a little bit. The M5 was a little bit more comfortable, but you know, I switched to springs, I started to feel a little bit more, and now coilovers, that's a whole nother story. But you know, if you're interested in that, I got other videos to speak about that. That's it on comfort. Let's switch over to technology. Let me go in here and show you guys some of the technology in this vehicle. I think as far as technology, this car is just, all right, here's a good start. So it does show you the temperature of the tires, which is crazy. Like, you get the PSI information, which I guess is pretty standard in most vehicles, but you get the temperature, was pretty cool. But I'll show you, there's a lot more than that. So for starters, obviously you got the compartment here. This is a wireless charger, which does suck. You know, when you're running CarPlay, obviously, plus wireless charging, and then you throw Google Maps up, it's a struggle. Like, the phone doesn't really charge, it starts to heat up, and you know, which is why I have a USB-C cable plugged into here. There's one slot for a USB-C cable. I also got all sorts of other stuff. But as far as technology though, with the wireless charger, I use my phone as a key. I don't even have my keys on me right now. I do carry my keys occasionally, but I'll show you guys. So we're gonna start this car up. M3 competition, it's just a virtual card in my wallet. Put it in the NFC wireless charger holder. There she goes. Obviously I have an aftermarket exhaust with catalyst downpipe, so mine is a little bit louder, but you guys see what I'm talking about with the display in the iDrive 8. It's gorgeous in my opinion. This looks phenomenal. The CarPlay looks phenomenal. You can tell it's two different displays, by the way. It's physically it's one big one, but like digitally it's two different ones behind the screen. And this can change, so I'll show you guys real quick. I don't want to go too much into detail, but you get all sorts of information. So obviously this is the standard BMW stuff. You could switch between sport and all that stuff. You get the maps. I'll show you. The map actually looks pretty cool. You get the route preview, which, you know, it's not specific to M3. You get the miles per gallon, probably pretty low for me. Let's see. show you guys a couple more things on this display. The sport display is pretty cool. It shows you like the pound-feet of torque and the horsepower as you like kind of move. I'll put up some clips obviously for you guys to see that. All this stuff is pretty standard. So I personally, since it's not summertime yet, I like to keep it on the tires just so I can kind of gauge where the tire temperature is. You know, I don't like to go too crazy and risky because these cars are very fast. But all right, so as far as the middle, standard, pretty standard, nothing crazy here. You got the M mode, the setup, the exhaust, the valves and stuff, which obviously I'll point that out for anybody new to M3s and even M5s. This does not actually open the valves up completely. This is why you buy a valve controller with whatever exhaust you get. Even on stock exhaust, some people will put a valve controller to fully open it. I think it's like 60%, which I have no idea why BMW limits it. I don't know if it's like a compliance thing. They got to be compliant with like the federal regulations and stuff that they have the valves don't open all the way, but you can add a valve controller to the stock exhaust. You can open it up fully, and obviously I have an aftermarket exhaust, so mine's a whole different level. The rest of the car, like, you get the USB-C here, you get 2 USB-C ports in the back, which is pretty cool. These M3 logos do light up on the seats, which I think is also phenomenal. That's not limited to the carbon bucket seats. That also lights up on even the regular leather seats. So, you know, don't think that's limited to these. And then the ambient lighting, obviously sick. Again, this is included in the M5 as well. The M5 is actually, when you get the Bowers and Wilkins, it's even nicer. But the ambient lighting is not really limited to the M3, but I also think it's pretty cool. And yeah, technology-wise, I mean, I would say those are like my top things. But definitely a lot of technology with this. When you do the remote software upgrade, which I do have one to do, I do have another video up there where I've done one. I'll try to link that for you guys. But when you do the technology upgrade, it does kill the entire iDrive. The doors lock up, you can't get in and out of the car. The car is essentially useless, which, you know, kind of reminds me of Teslas, because, you know, what happens when, you know, something goes down in the world, and I feel like they kind of shut their cars off versus, you know, having an E92, which is why I tell other friends, it's, you know, having those cars, it's a little bit different. But yeah, a lot of technology in this vehicle. All the climate controls are on the screen. There's actually no climate controls here. You just got a couple defrosters, but you go into climate menu, and that's where you got to do everything here, which is kind of annoying with the fingerprints and the handprints, but I am used to it now. I do usually keep a microfiber towel. I did just detail the car, so I don't have one right now, but I usually have a microfiber towel here, and you always see me at traffic lights just wiping the screen down, because I'm just very OCD. But other than that, I think that technology grew on me. I don't think it's, yeah, okay, sure, maybe it's a little bit overboard, but I think it's pretty sweet. And obviously you got like little seatbelt sensors down here. Here, I'll show you guys. I'll put a seatbelt on. So if you see my driver's side will go green. Pretty cool. Check engine light, because I have catalyst downpipes and I haven't tuned it yet. So for anybody who keeps commenting, you know, BMWs suck. And you got the auto start engine on and off, which obviously sucks. I don't know why anybody needs that feature. You buy a car like this, I'm not keeping it on. This is my key, so maybe we should bring it with me. So I did kind of go over reliability when I went over the power and performance in the engine and everything, but I think overall these cars are very reliable. I've had it for 11,000 miles, no issues. I've had friends have them to 20, 30,000 miles, trade them in, get new ones. Absolutely no issues, really just oil changes. You know, for what it is, the S58 motor, super fast. It obviously doesn't just come on M3s. I believe it comes on the M4s. I think even the M2s are now S58. The M5s obviously are a whole different beast, but the S58 motor, it's super fast. It's a rocket. There's no lag. You know, reliable. I think it's a very good car. People daily drive these. You want to daily drive these, they're great vehicles. I went over comfort. You know, it's just a little bit of a smaller vehicle, but, and even if you don't daily drive it like me, it's a weekend car. You know, you take it on road trips, you take it all around the country on road trips, you have a lot of fun with your friends. Still, you know, again, mine's on coilovers. I do have catalyst downpipes, and absolutely no issues. I think it's a great car, very reliable. I've owned it for a year. Would I buy one again if, you know, I ever got rid of this, if I ever sold it, if I got, you know, something else? Hands down. I think, you know, for now I've had it for a year. Would I keep it longer than this? I think for now, yeah. There are a couple other modifications I want to do, and then, you know, obviously I want to do all sorts of road trips around the country with this vehicle. You know, I want to drive it all around the country. I want to do a few more things, you know, such as wheels and a few other modifications to really enjoy the vehicle for a little bit, and then we'll see if I keep it. But personally, I've had it for a full year. I think it's a great car for anybody who keeps asking me. very reliable, and you know, I think it looks sick. I still get a lot of thumbs up, but it breaks a lot of necks. It's a very, very nice car, and I think BMW definitely killed it with this. But that's very high level. I wanted to keep this kind of short and quick. Just went over a few different various things, different topics on the vehicle. If there's anything I missed, if there's anything anybody else has further questions on, I can definitely make more videos. I can definitely try my best to answer any comments as I see them come in. But overall, I do love this vehicle, and I highly recommend it for anybody looking into one of these, whether you get it used or new. I mean, now obviously you can get them used for, I think, even low 70s, maybe even high 60s at this point, you know, because 2021 is the first year they came out. Obviously 2021 didn't have xDrive, by the way. 22 is when they started the xDrive, so 21 was rear wheel drive, and you know, you get a manual one, you can get one for even cheaper. But you can definitely get them all over the used market, and obviously you can still order them new. I believe 2024 is still rocking the same motor and the same power setup. Maybe 25 is when they'll actually switch it, but I do know several people that purchase 24s, and even people who order 24s that get them in the next month or two. So some dealers are getting them pretty quick, like 3-4 months. Like, they're not taking as long as it used to take. So you know, if you are thinking of getting a brand new one, you still could get, you know, I guess a 24 before 25 could, you know, I'm sure they'll switch it up, and you know, everything going away from gas, that's a whole different story for another day, another video. But you can definitely still order these for whatever price you spec them out. I mean, you could probably order a brand new one for, I don't know about high 70s, but definitely low 80s, and then you can go up to over 100 if you want, depending if you get carbon ceramic brakes and all that stuff. Yeah, let me know if anybody has any other questions, anything I should go over. But this is my 1 year full honest review on the G80 M3. Love the car. I'll see you guys next time.